What is happening, everybody? My name is Grim. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing practice 1 and practice 2 and going into qualifying. We're going to predict who's going to get pole position going into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.
We're live in Jeddah. Practice 1 and practice 2 was complete. We've had time to digest. We've had news come in and out of the media center. But let's just go through practice 1 first. Max Verstappen kicked it off with a 129.659, topping practice 1, with Fernando Alonso sneaking into P2 with his Aston Martin. He was nearly 0.2 of a second slower than Max Verstappen. But remember, in Jeddah, the day section or the day practice 1 has not as much significance as practice 2, because obviously practice 2 is nighttime. That's when the conditions we're going to get during qualifying and the race. Sergio Perez came in at in 3rd place, 0.02 of a second slower than Max Verstappen. Sergio struggling again with the fastest car in the grid. George Russell P4 at the moment, and then 5th Charles Leclerc with his teammate Carlos Sainz in P6. The Ferrari are sorted there, but still Carlos was half a second slower than Max Verstappen. Lando Norris in 7th, Lewis Hamilton 8th, who was struggling. 9th, Lance Stroll, who had a massive gap between himself and Fernando Alonso, which was unfortunate for Lance. Hopefully he can find his groove moving up. Alexander Albon made the top 10 and getting his Williams into 10th place. At the back was the Haas team, but I think they're running on a different program. Zhou trying to, perform like he had last time out. Zhou had a really good performance, and he's trying to, maximize his performance this weekend in Saudi Arabia. Oscar Piastri, a low P15 for him. Logan Sargent in 14th, not too bad. And the Alpine of Esteban Ocon in 13th. So Alpine actually looking a bit more quicker so far this weekend, but we're going to have to see what happens going into practice 3 and qualifying. Then practice 2 results. Fernando Alonso topped the timesheet, surprisingly. Fernando back on top once again. With his Aston Martin, he was 0.02 of a second clear of George Russell with his Mercedes. Now, there's talks that we could have a closer grid here in Saudi Arabia. Listen, realistically, is Red Bull going to come out and dominate and smash everybody in Saudi? Yes. Max Verstappen was 3rd place. He was 0.03 of a second slower than Fernando Alonso. I think those times aren't realistic. I think Red Bull are still the quickest and are still the team to beat, especially Max Verstappen. 4th, Charles Leclerc. 5th, Sergio Perez, who was struggling. He was nearly 4.5 of a second slower than Fernando Alonso. Teammate Lance Stroll in P6. He was half a second behind Fernando, but moving up, those Astons actually looking quick. They were not in my prediction video. I didn't think Aston were going to be quick at all. I thought they were going to be fighting with McLaren at the back. But no, they're very, very quick at the moment. Russell actually, compared to Hamilton, is doing really, really well so far this weekend. I think Russell's found his mojo, but never count Lewis out. P7 was Carlos Sainz for his Ferrari. A bit slower than Charles Leclerc. He's on the back foot so far against his teammate. I had him actually ahead, so I had Carlos ahead of Charles going into the weekend, but at the moment Charles has that edge. Lewis Hamilton, P8, who's struggling a lot, is 0.06 of a second slower than Fernando Alonso's time. Pierre Gasly 9th and 10th, Oscar Piastri, but apparently the Alpine were running really, really low fuel. We don't know though, we don't know. Also, Oscar Piastri struggling so far a little bit with his McLaren. Lando Norris down in 12th, but I think that McLarens were running a different program. Yuki Tsunoda ahead of Daniel Ricciardo once again. Yuki really just trying to prove that he can deserve, or he does deserve, a seat at Red Bull. Maybe next season. We'll see what happens with that. At the back, Kick Sauber, Valtteri Bottas, Nico Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen 17th and 18th. Ricciardo had a shocker. He was down in 19th. Logan Sargent 16th. And Esteban Ocon 15th. So it looks like that those Alpines have a bit more pace. But for some reason, I feel like Gasly just found a lot of performance compared to Esteban Ocon. We don't really know fuel loads, but apparently that Gasly did have a really low fuel run. Also, there was a moment where Lewis Hamilton almost went into the way of, or almost hit a flying Logan Sargent, and Carlos on the radio saying, that's really dangerous. And after all that, the team actually got a fine. Yeah, the team got a fine by the FIA. It was labelled a serious failure on the team's behalf. It was a €15,000 fine, which is about 30,000 Australian dollars. I would be freaking spewing. But anyway, these teams have money, I guess. I feel like it was a bit unnecessary. Like, it is practice, and okay, the team might have said something, but I think Lewis deserved the warning. I don't think it was that crazy, and that circuit is very quick, and that section of the track is super, super lightning quick, but I don't think they deserve the €15,000 fine, So I think that's a bit harsh from the FIA. Lando Norris came out to say the new track idea is absolutely crazy That's the new track idea that Saudi Arabia had. And I think Lando Norris doesn't mind it, but he said it is a crazy look. Mercedes have an aggressive rear wing tweak for Saudi Arabia. That could be the reason why they're quick. And maybe they're testing it on George Russell to see how it goes. And Russell was up into P2 just behind Fernando Alonso. Lewis Hamilton also gave a warning to Max Verstappen about having his father, in behind the scenes. And obviously Hamilton had his dad behind the scenes for a few years and then obviously got rid of him to have his own manager. Said he's running on a thin rope. And honestly, I feel like, I don't know, I can't see Max not listening to Jos, to be honest with you guys. And a lot of hate on Jos Verstappen, but hey, he's doing what he has to do for his son. And obviously we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. And obviously this talk, Max to Mercedes, is blowing up a lot. And it's still talked about in the paddock at the moment. I feel like the racing off track the news off track is outshining the racing on track at the moment, unless of course Fernando can do something or Mercedes can do something and put the car in pole position, actually win another Grand Prix, and that will actually determine that, Red Bull aren't going to be running away with the championship this season, and it's actually going to be a fight. And it was a one-off in Bahrain that Red Bull was super, super quick. And then obviously we have Melbourne, which is another circuit compared to the rest, and then we're going to sort of work out what's going on. But otherwise, Red Bull can come out on Saturday, destroy the opposition, and Max Verstappen can be on pole by 0.2 of a second. You never know what's going to happen. So let's just wait and see what happens moving forward. My predictions going into qualifying, let's just go crazy. I think Fernando Alonso pole, second George Russell, third Lance Stroll, fourth Max Verstappen, fifth Charles Leclerc, sixth Perez, seventh Carlos Sainz, eighth Lewis Hamilton. I think Lewis is struggling just a little bit, but I hope he can find his feet the rest of the race weekend. Guys, qualifying and practice 3 are coming up shortly. We're a few hours away. Stay tuned for that. Guys, watch all the short videos too. Stay up to date with what's going on my Instagram, and obviously on YouTube we're posting those too. And if you want full content like this, watch the full video. Guys, thank you guys for watching. My name is Grim. Make sure you like the videos, and I'll see you guys in my next Formula 1 video. Thank you.